and for an in-depth analysis of the war between Israel and Hamas and this recent attack. I'm joined by global affairs analyst Ejike Okwai. Joins me to discuss the position of Iraq on this. It's good to have you join us at this time. So let's start with the potential diplomatic consequences of this recent attack. And would you say it was a strategic success or a setback?
I mean, it's successful. Thank you for having me. It's a strategic success for Israel because, you know, whatever they wanted to do, they achieved it. But it's a setback in the conversation, you know, that we have been expecting that, you know, by this time there will be some more progress towards peace between, you know, the factions. But for Israel to, you know, get into the airspace of another country because of suspected presence of Hamas people and actually attacked them, I think is a violation because they actually violated the airspace of Qatar. And then now, you know, the question is, what was Qatar, you know, defenses, their Air Force doing such that the plane that got in there was able to do this and turn around and left. So this is a lot of questions, you know, being asked. But again, you know, we are looking forward, you know, to responses and reactions from all the parties concerned in resolving this conflict.
And there is a concern about what is to follow after this strike, and what you also mentioned about the fact that Israel may not have had the legal right to carry out airstrikes in a sovereign nation like that. Is this something that we could classify as an act of war?
Of course. I mean, if somebody comes into, you know, just imagine your own home. If somebody comes into your home and attacks you, how else would you do it? Would you say that was a friendly gesture, or do you think that, you know, you have been attacked? You know, if this had happened, you know, in Hamas territory, I don't think it will get the sort of reaction it's getting. But this is happening in a neutral country, and which is Qatar, that has extended itself and resources in order to have this thing resolved, to get into their airspace and then, you know, kill the people that have been killed, destroying the property. Again, is in my own assessment and understanding of international relationships, is a violation. And there are no other ways to justify it. It's a pure violation. Israel needs to be held in some kind of way responsible for this singular unnecessary act.
That has been sort of a concern since this war began, holding Israel accountable for some of the things we have seen since this war began. But let's look at Iraq's position, condemning this war, calling it an act of aggression. There is a concern about Israel's credibility in terms of its, you know, its recent history and its own division with foreign interventions.
Look, everybody that woke up to the news and keep reading the news, you know, in some kind of way felt that this shouldn't have happened. You know, if Israeli defenses or some sort of security personnel has sneaked into the country and done this thing without crossing the airspace. Remember, you know, when it comes to real estate, the air above every country belongs to that country. If you are going to send any military ammunition, you have to either have obtained a right to cross and enter, or, you know, a permission. But in this case, it doesn't look like Qatar granted them that. So they either exploited a weak defense system in Qatar, and they did what they did because, you know, it's one of those things. I'm going to do it. You know, what are you going to do to me? And that is just a serious wagging of fingers in front of Qataris and in front of all the allies that want to see this thing, you know, ended. But then let's see what the consequences are. You know, President Trump said he's going to make a statement that is saddened by it. But a lot of people have been saddened by what Israel has been able to do, you know, because of the October 7th issue. But again, what are you going to do? Will somebody say that I am bigger than you? It doesn't matter if you're weak. You know, they're still going to do what they want to do.
What does this say about the incident in terms of the expanding scope of the Israel-Hamas conflict? Does this mean we're witnessing a new phase of escalation where even countries not directly involved are being dragged in?
I mean, the Hamas people, the Palestinians have their friends. Their friends may not be, visible because, they are afraid of consequences. Who knows? There may be some other ways they're going to try to, respond to this and do stuff to Israelis or Israel facilities across the world. Who knows? They might be targeting the Israeli embassies or something, in order to show solidarity with both Palestinians and then, somehow dragging Qatar into this. But I'm impressed by what, the leader of Qatar said. He said they are still committed to diplomatic solution.
Yeah.
But then we'll see what happens. Again, since this incident, October 7th, 2023, so we have seen all kinds of, pledges made, all kinds of promises made, and here we are 2 years or so into it, and we don't see any end to this sort of, situation.
We're looking towards this as it means where a neutral Gulf state perhaps will make a particular stance or a more active stance in addressing the Israel-Hamas war. But that's a fine place to leave the conversation for now. Thank you for talking to us, Global Affairs Analyst Ejike Opa.
Well, thank you for having me.